There is a FNaF fan game you've probably never heard of. It's called the Hell In Freddy's. The game was made by Dark House. The game hasn't actually been finished yet, with there only being a teaser game released. However though, I did more research on this game and that led me down a rabbit hole so deep that I just had to make a video on it. Especially after finding out that there's just one video on the game, and that video was uploaded by the developer. The game job page was created on the 1st of October 2024. Then 2 weeks later, a teaser game was released titled Revengeance 1, which is a series of mini-games similar to the Return to Freddy's 5 teaser games. I played the teaser game and I found it very interesting, so I decided to look at Dark House's Game Jolt, and I found that they have 2 more games. One of them has actually been finished. And I also found out that there's actually a whole wiki on the Hell In Freddy's, which goes into detail about the lore. But first, let's talk about the teaser game. The game contains 6 minigames. You can play them in any order. I'm going to talk about them in order from 1 to 6. The first minigame is called I Always Come Back, according to the wiki. Disclaimer, I got most of the information from the wiki. In the minigame you play as William Afton. You slowly walk towards a spring Bonnie suit. Then you go inside the suit and get spring locked. Then, during the spring lock failure, the spring suit slowly comes off and William Afton is now purple and naked. So William Afton is actually canonically purple. Then you get text that reads, I always come back. So during the spring lock failure, William is actually taking off the suit. Yeah, he has the strength to remove a spring locked animatronic suit whilst getting spring locked. And him turning purple is supposed to be him looking like a decayed corpse, like it is in FNaF. But here, he turns purple straight away for some reason. The second minigame is called a pink suit. As you play as William Afton again, you walk towards a pink guy and then you go inside the pink guy? Well, no, not really, because after that it shows an image of the pink guy with text that reads, it was a suit the whole time. Yeah, so the pink guy is actually a spring suit named EE82EE. Also, the Take Cake minigame from FNaF 2 is actually canon to the Hell In Freddy's, and when William killed Charlie, he wore the EE82EE suit. The third minigame is called Avenge Him. You once again play as William Afton. It takes place in Fredbear's family diner. It starts off with William Afton putting on a Fredbear suit. This minigame has more to it than the last 2. You first go up to a kid and you strangle him to death. Then you go up to another kid and stab him in the chest. Then you go up to another kid and rip his stomach open. I do like the way the murders are done. Usually when someone gets killed in the minigame in a FNaF fan game, they just bleed a lot. Here though, the murders are actually animated. I like how William's design changes when he kills the children. It's cartoony sure, but it looks pretty good. Then at the end you find another kid. You take off the Fredbear suit, then text pops up that says, Dad, I'm sorry, it was just an accident. Then William Afton pulls out a fucking gun and shoots the kid. Then you get text that reads, it was an accident. Throughout the minigame, there's text at the top of the screen that says, revenge. This is because the minigame is William Afton getting revenge on the bullies who caused a bite of 83, with the victim being his son. This incident is known as the Fredbear Massacre, and the big brother, who in this game is named Terrence Afton, is the one who gets killed at the end. So he kills his own son to get revenge on his son. Makes sense. An interesting detail with this though, is that he kills the bullies in pretty gruesome ways, whilst for Terrence he just shoots him, so maybe he didn't want him to suffer as much since he's still his son. Now onto the fourth minigame, which is called I Will Put You Back Together. You play as William Afton, again, and you're holding the head of Michael Afton. Then you see Michael Afton's body with an endoskeleton head. When you touch Michael, you get text that reads, I will put you back together. So in this universe, Michael Afton is actually a robot who is made after all 3 of William's children died. Elizabeth was killed off screen. The fifth minigame is called Run Run Run. You actually don't play as William Afton this time, instead you play as Michael Afton. Throughout the minigame there's text that reads, Run Run Run. In the minigame you run into the EE82 suit, and then you go inside it. Then after a few seconds, Ballora just shows up. It then cuts to a first person view where it shows you inside of EE82. You then get text that reads, I'm trapped. In this universe, EE82 is actually the spring suit you're in during night 4 in Sister Location, so this minigame also takes place in a scooping room. The sixth minigame is called You Can't Save Them. You play as William Afton who is wearing a spring Bonnie suit. You go into a room with 5 kids. As you walk towards the left, the kids start to go into the other room you were in. You then slowly walk towards the end of the room. You then stand there for a few seconds and then you pull out a gun, and then the minigame ends. This is supposed to be the murder of the 5 children, and in this universe, William fucking shot them all to death with a pistol before stuffing them into animatronic suits. When you've beaten all the minigames, you unlock a secret 7th minigame. The 7th minigame is called Kill Her. In this minigame you play as Shadow Bonnie. You go through all the previous minigames in the game, just like the Shadow Bonnie minigame in FNaF 3. To be honest, I don't know exactly what you're supposed to do in this minigame. I just spent about a minute moving around the locations, and when I was in the 5th minigame, I just ended up teleporting into the room you're supposed to go to. You enter the timeline of the first minigame, right after William Afton became purple. Shadow Bonnie then starts glitching out, while text pops up that reads, "Kill her." So Shadow Bonnie is actually another version of William Afton from the future, who went back in time to tell William Afton to kill Charlotte Emily, which is what he meant by kill her. When the 7th minigame ends, it says The Hell In Freddy's Revengeance, end of Volume 1. Then the screen goes black, it then shows you a blue guy, and then text pops up that reads, "To be continued." As of the time I'm recording this video, Volume 2 has not been released yet. However though, I'm not even close to being done yet. Remember how I said that Dark House actually made other games? Well, that's what we're going to be talking about next. Only one game has actually been finished, and that is 3 Nights at Purpy's, although sometimes it's spelled Purplease. Also, doesn't Purpy sound like the name of a disease? Yeah, it sounds like a disease that turns your skin purple. Maybe that's a skin disease Garvey Wright has. Anyway, the game was released on the 27th of October 2024, so shortly after the Hell In Freddy's Revengeance came out. Also, there are no videos on this game. The game opens with a news article saying that Freddy Fazbear's now has a rival restaurant, that being Purpy's Pizza, which is looking for a security guard. So the office is just a FNaF 2 location but with purple lighting. Also, the left doorway from FNaF 3 is on the left side of the office. The cameras are also just FNaF 1 and 2 locations, but again they have different lighting. The game only has 5 rooms. There's only 2 enemies throughout the 3 nights. You have Purpy and Nightmare Purpy. Purpy's design is Freddy's body with Chica's head with no eyes, with Freddy's top hat, ears and nose, and it's purple. His design is actually kinda creepy even if it's low quality. For Nightmare Purpy, it's Nightmare Fredbear's body with Nightmare Chica's head with Nightmare Fredbear's nose and top hat, and is purple. So how do you actually play the game? In Cam 1 and Cam 3 you have the Shuffle Lock, which is where the animatronic starring locations are. With Purpy it's Cam 1 and Nightmare Purpy it's Cam 3. Whenever an animatronic appears in your office, you have to press the shuffle lock in the starting location of whoever's in the office. The animatronics have different movement patterns. Nightmare Purpy can only attack from the left, while Purpy can attack from the centre and the right. Seems pretty easy, doesn't it? Yeah, well no, because the AI is randomised to the point where you can sometimes die instantly if someone enters the office. This is mainly an issue in Night 3. All I can really say is be quick at pressing the shuffle lock. That's basically the key to beating the game. Also, the nights only last 3 minutes, so this game is pretty damn short. Now let's talk about the story of the game. Yes, this game has lore. There are phone calls on night 1 to 3. The phone guy's name is Fritz Smith, who is the owner of Purpy's. There's also mini-games after each night. At the end of night 1 you get a mini-game where you play as a purple guy, who I'm assuming is William Afton. In the minigame you walk from Freddy Fazbear's to Purpy's, and then it ends. In the Night 2 phone call, Fritz says that Freddy Fazbear's are threatening Purpy's with a cease and desist lawsuit, and that they might have to close down. When you beat Night 2 you get a minigame which shows that the purple guy has murdered 2 children, while it says Hell on the wall, written in blood. Wait, Hell? The Hell in Freddy's? Wait, are these games canon to each other? In the Night 3 phone call, Fritz tells you that 2 kids were found dead at Purpy's. And then he fucking dies! In the Night 3 minigame it shows a yellow guy on the phone next to a Purpy suit. Then the purple guy runs in and stuffs him into the Purpy suit. And then he fucking dies. The yellow guy is supposed to be Fritz Smith, and this minigame shows what happened in the Night 3 phone call. So I think what's supposed to be happening throughout these minigames is that the purple guy is owner of Freddy Fazbear's and is committing murders at Purpy's in hopes to get the place shut down. After the Night 3 minigame you get a news article that tells you that Purpy's Pizza closed down after the owner was found dead, and that the police have not yet found the murderer. And when it takes you back to the menu, you find out that there is a 4th night. Night 4 is different to the previous nights. Purpy and Nightmare Purpy are not active. Instead, it introduces a new animatronic, who I think might be possessed by Fritz Smith, since there's a hole in the chest where you can see a corpse. Anyway, night 4 is near unbeatable. You can literally just die for no reason at any moment and there's literally nothing you can do. I spent about 30 minutes on night 4 and the furthest I got to was 2 AM. So when you can't beat the game, you decompile the files, and I found out what happens when you beat night 4. You get a news article that tells you that the night god at Purpy's was found dead, so I guess you die when you get to 6 AM. It also says that the animatronics were decommissioned after night 3, which explains why they weren't active on night 4. Okay, so it said that the Purpy animatronic on night 4 is probably possessed by Fred Smith. However though, I think it could actually be the purple guy in a Purpy suit, just like Murderer in the Return to Freddy's. I think it makes sense since he is in the building committing murders, and you're his next victim. You can see that there's a corpse inside of the Purpy suit, but what if that's actually the purple guy? What if William Afton is actually purple in this game, which also links to the possibility that Purpy's is canon to the Hell in Freddy's? But, you know, it's just theory. Anyway, that's the end of the game. This feels like a game Ricky G or Hadman would have made in 2015, which are not very good, mainly because they're made by amateurs. This game has made it clear that Dark House are good at making minigames, but they have little to no experience with 3D modelling, which is why the locations and animatronics are made up of reused assets. Something interesting is that there was a game drop post made on the 6th of November 2024 that showed a teaser of Nightmare Purpy that says Grand Reopening. So is this game getting a sequel? Well, it's been 4 months now since the post was made and there's been no more updates, so I don't know. Okay, now let's talk about the other game that Dark House are making. This one hasn't been released in any shape or form as of right now. But the concept of this game is honestly hilarious. The game is called Five Nights at Counter-Strike. Yes, this is a FNaF fan game based off the FPS game series Counter-Strike. The description of the game reads, play the world's #1 online action game, engage with an incredibly realistic brand of terrorist warfare in this wildly popular team-based game. Wait, hold on a second, this is just the Counter-Strike Steam description. There's quite a lot of teasers that have been posted, for all of them being parodies of the Was It Me or Me teasers from FNaF 4. There's also images of sprites that have been posted, so I'm assuming there's going to be minigames. The post says killers, liars, thieves and goons sprites, so is that the name of the characters? 2 other teasers show a city with 4 characters, and the lighting is red. One says 5 maps, 1 story, and the other says what's heard in the voice chat is easily misunderstood in the mind of a gamer. There's also a teaser which shows a bomb on the floor, and the last teaser is a close-up of a character wearing grey that says coming soon. These 2 also look eerily similar to FNaF 4 teasers. Maybe this is going to be a FNaF 4 fan game. And here's something crazy, there's actually a trailer for Five Nights at Counter-Strike. However, though it has since been removed for unknown reasons. Five Nights at Counter-Strike is apparently going to be made in Game Maker, while the last 2 games are made in Click Team. The game drop page was put up on the 13th of January 2025, and all the teasers were posted on the same day. There hasn't been any updates posted since, so who knows when this game will come out. So I've mentioned there's a part 2 to the Hell in Freddy's coming soon, and Dark House have actually been posting teasers for the game. The teasers have been in the form of screenshots of the minigames and some of the characters that will be featured in the game, and they've posted a lot. And on the wiki, it actually gives information of these minigames and characters, even though Volume 2 hasn't even been released. I think someone's a bit too excited. After finding all this out, I had an idea. Since a lot of Volume 2 has been made already, I thought maybe I could get early access to the game. It probably wouldn't work, but I decided to give it a go anyway. I got in contact with Dark House and told them that I'm a YouTuber who is planning on making a video on the Hell in Freddy's, and if they could give me early access to Volume 2. And they actually responded. They responded by saying, YouTuber you are, the Hell in Freddy's Revengeance Volume 2 teasers I can send you of early. And they actually sent me an early build of Volume 2. The version I was sent only contained 4 minigames, but there's going to be 20 in the full game. Now, the first 3 of these minigames aren't actually on the wiki yet, so I can only talk about them based off how I'm seeing them or if there's information on the characters. The first minigame takes place in 1987 at the FNaF 2 location. You play as a kid whose name I don't know. It starts off with you next to the stage. You can interact with things by pressing space. If you press space next to the stage, you can honk Freddy's nose. When you keep moving towards the left, you'll go to a room where there's a kid who says, I love Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, best place. In the next room, you can sometimes encounter a secret character named the Paired One. I have no idea what he has to do with it all. When you move towards the left, the rooms get darker and the music becomes quieter, which does feel unnerving. When you enter the last room, Fredbear runs in, puts the kid in his mouth and crushes his head. This Fredbear is actually a suit being worn by the blue guy who you see at the end of Volume 1. The blue guy's name is Simon, who is friends with William Afton and helps him carry out his murders. There is a teaser of Simon that says, "You thought William worked alone." A pretty gruesome fact about Simon is that he is actually a cannibal. So yeah, he fucking eats this kid's brains after the Fredbear jaw bites him. The second minigame starts off by showing 5 kids in a room, then Simon walks into the room holding an axe, and that is who you play as. When you walk around the room, the kids will run away from you. If you touch one of them though... Fucking hell, you just chopped them into bits. This game is really not afraid to show what happened to the kids without toning anything down, which I kind of admire, not gonna lie. When you kill all the kids, you get text that reads, "He has killed before." Yeah, well no shit, we saw him eat a child's head earlier. The third minigame takes place at a restaurant called Stubby's Family Diner, which is owned by Simon. You play as a green bear with a red top hat and bow tie, who I'm assuming is Stubby. When you move towards the left, you'll find 2 rooms to go into. If you go into the room above you, you'll find an unknown animatronic. It's like this weird rabbit thing with hands on its ears and rabbit heads where the hands are supposed to be. Nothing actually happens though. If you go into the room on the left, you'll see Simon and William having a conversation, then after a few seconds, the minigame ends. The minigame has a really creepy Easter egg. If you walk into one of the walls, you can get an image of Shadow Bonnie at an unknown location. There's a lot of static, so it's hard to really tell what's going on. Also, the audio heard in the background is a distorted version of the Swedish Rhapsody number station, which gives me the creeps. The fourth minigame is called Browboy's Adventure. Yeah, Browboy from FNaF World is in the game. In the minigame you walk towards the right and see that Simon has killed a child, who is now in the form of a shadow balloon boy, and then it ends. One last thing to talk about in the demo is that there's a box from FNaF 4 next to 2 key icons. You can't open it though. So I'm gonna have to wait for the full version before I find out what's in that box. And that's the end of the early version that I was sent, so thank you Dark House for sending me this, I had a lot of fun playing it. I'm still not done yet, because there's a lot of minigames for Volume 2 that have been made and weren't in the demo, and there's a lot of characters that I haven't even mentioned yet, and I'm going to go over all of it. Let's go over the animatronics first. So there's a character in Volume 1 who I didn't mention, and that's Cake Bear. Yes, as in Cake Bear from Dormit Abyss. Here, he's just Withered Freddy but with Springtrap's face slapped on, and the image is from a teaser where everyone thought he was Fredbear. Cake Bear makes a cameo in the pink soup minigame. His head appears on the top shelf and a cake can be seen on the bottom shelf. Also, Cake Bear's family diner is actually a canon location in the game, but I don't know where it's going to come into the lore. Maybe that's where the Take Cake minigame takes place. Another animatronic is Orion, who is just Lockjaw from the Return to Freddy's 3, but he wears red and has a bigger mouth. There is a lot of information on this guy. So Orion is a killer animatronic made by Simon, who is programmed to kidnap and torture children for scientific experiments. There is a place called Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria and Dinery, which closed down in 1976, and Orion was kept in a nuclear bunker located under the restaurant, and at some point before the events of Volume 1, the CIA found him. And this is where things get even more interesting. The wiki page goes into detail about the gameplay for the actual game, not a minigame. So Orion will be active on night 666. The game, or at least night 666, will take place in Freddy Fazbear's Pizzeria and Dinery, and Orion will come from the nuclear bunker. Also, there'll be rare screens that show a child inside of Orion, just like that FNaF fan game that uses the same character model. Also, apparently Dark House confirmed that Orion was based off a real demon that haunts one of the developers. Let's just move on. Orion is by far the most in-depth animatronic, as the other animatronics have pretty much no information on them. One of them is Spring Freddy, who... why are his legs so big? Why do they just Photoshop the legs? Anyway, he was a spring suit who was destroyed after the closure of Fredbear's family diner. I don't know if he's going to be an enemy or not, but he exists. And lastly, there's Threshold Freddy, who was actually shown on the Game Drop page before Volume 1 was released. He's like this Withered Freddy Funtime Freddy hybrid with tentacles, although the wiki page says literally nothing about him, so I don't know if it's still going to be in the game. Okay, now let's talk about the rest of the story for Volume 2 that has been released. One minigame is called Corruption, where you play as a yellow guy who is a journalist, who is in a room with puddles of blood and a foxy suit on the left. In the background is text that reads, "Help me." And the green guy who is a businessman pays a journalist. So I guess the journalist found out about the murders and the businessman is bribing him not to tell anyone. The businessman works for Fazbear Entertainment. Not much is known about him, but he is connected to the murders in some way. Another minigame is called Chica's Cooking World, where you play as Toy Chica, who in this universe, Chica is a dog. And get this, in the minigame, Chica goes into a secret meth lab. Yeah, there's a meth lab inside of one of the Freddy's locations. Also, apparently the pink guy is named J. Pick Guy and the white guy is named Wally H. Wright, which is believed to be a reference to Breaking Bad, with the characters being Walter White and Jesse Pinkman. Wait, Wally H. Wright? We've established that Cake Bears is canon to the Hell In Freddy's. I'm starting to think now that Door Mitabis is canon to the game. Another minigame is called August 14th, 1878. Wow, so the Hell In Freddy's timeline goes way back to the 19th century. In the minigame you play as a lavender guy named Alistair Afton, who is the grandfather of William Afton. He owned a company called Afton Railroad Conglomerate, which later became Afton Robotics. In the minigame, Alistair gets off a train. He then gets an omen from the sky which tells him the future of his family, I guess implying that William Afton will go on to be a mass murderer. Before Alistair's death, he provided William with money to help out with Afton Robotics, so I guess he ignores what is told to him in whatever shape or form. Alistair will appear in another minigame called Midnight Fratricide. In the minigame, Alistair's brother, Severin Afton, is threatening him by pointing a gun at him. It's unknown what Severin wants from Alistair, but the minigame ends without anyone getting hurt, so I guess they settle whatever disagreement they have. There's also a wiki page on the Afton family. Alistair and Severin are both British and moved to the United States. It mentions that Severin is a criminal who has associations with the mafia. Alistair had a son named Chris Afton Sr., who is also William's dad, and William's child, Chris Afton Jr., was named after him. Another minigame is called Give Salad, where you play as Orion and give the children salad. In a screenshot of the minigame you can see that Simon is about to enter the room, so I guess it'll end with Simon killing the kids. There's also a minigame called In the End. There isn't any information on it, but in the screenshot you can see what looks like a purple portal in a dark blue forest. There's 3 shadow figures surrounding it. The only information known about the minigame is that you play as Orion, but by the sounds of it, it'll be one of the last minigames. Now, this is where the minigames get interesting. Before I talk about that though, I just want to go over 2 characters who we don't know much about. So there's 2 characters, Boss Garrison and the Overseer, who we know nothing about right now, other than the fact that Boss Garrison was the owner of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza in 1987. There's a game job post from Dark House which says Universe 32 Satanic, which shows a sprite of Simon and a sprite of William Afton, who looks a bit hellish. I also found a post that shows some demented spring suit that says Simon of Beast, he is devil, so I guess Simon wears a suit, and again, these sprites are very well made. There's also a character called the Unknown Man who is planned during the development of Volume 1, but was removed and retconned. Dark House have implied that the Unknown Man will never appear in this series moving forward. The purpose of the Unknown Man was that his unknown lore and unknown purpose in the story would have been so hard to decipher that even when the story was completed, any questions about the Unknown Man would always go unanswered, so that you can make up your own interpretation with the dark thoughts in your unknown mind. It was removed because upon being written into the lore, Dark House forgot what the Unknown Man was supposed to be and it almost drove them insane. So they quickly removed him from the series. They also wanted to avoid the mystery of the Unknown Man since he felt out of place, given that the Hell In Freddy's is typically simple and very easy to understand. Well, at least that's what the wiki says. Anyway, now onto the rest of the minigames. So there's one called Illuminati Cave minigame, where you play as E82 and judging from a screenshot, you'll be jumping on platforms to get to the Illuminati. Nothing is really known about what goes on in this minigame and where the Illuminati comes into the story. Another minigame is called Meeting 1976. This minigame takes place in the Soviet Union and you play as William Afton, who is dressed up as Spring Bonnie. And he meets up with a red guy with a mustache named the Communist. I don't know why William Afton is meeting up with a communist in the Soviet Union, but I can't wait to find out what is supposed to be going on here. Another minigame is Deal 1939. There is a more in-depth description on what goes on in this minigame. You play as a red guy named the Dictator. In the minigame, the Dictator walks towards an alien who comes out of a UFO and then they shake hands. At some point in the minigame, Simon is seen in a helicopter. Wait, Simon was an adult in 1939 and he is shown to be alive and fit in the 1980s. Bro is literally Zack from Fazbear's Return. Also, apparently this minigame is based off Dark House's real beliefs. whatever that's supposed to mean. The last minigame I'm going to talk about is very different to the others, and that is the paper theatre. It'll be very similar to the cardboard theatre minigames in Dormitabus. Not much is known about it, but you'll play as various characters and go throughout various timelines of the game. There's 3 screenshots on the wiki. It seems like it'll be reenactments of previous minigames. 3 minigames shown are August 14th, 1878, Avenge Him, and 1987. It is believed that there'll be more when the full game releases, but we'll have to wait and see. So that's everything that Dark House has made as of right now. I am very interested to find out what the full release of the Hell In Freddy's Volume 2 is going to be like. I've linked Dark House's game journal in the description and I recommend following them if you want to find out about updates on the Hell In Freddy's Volume 2. So yeah, that's the end of the video. Thank you for watching.